In Tragedy, a true crime podcast, we discuss missing persons cases, violent crime, and other sensitive topics that may be difficult for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Our show is a place where every story matters and every voice deserves to be heard. To support this podcast, you can subscribe at www.tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast.com for early access to new episodes. And join our Facebook community, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, for updates, discussions, and ways to support the families we feature. Adventures with Purpose has helped bring resolution to families who were told there was nothing left to find. Their work forces us to reconsider what might still be possible in cases like Audrey's, where water, time, and unanswered questions intersect. Today, we will learn about the realities of underwater searches, what draws teams like Bill's to cases like Audrey Herron's, and why hope doesn't expire no matter how many years have passed. This is Tragedy, a true crime podcast. Today, we are welcoming Bill McIntosh to Tragedy. Bill is the director of Exploring with a Mission and a search specialist with Adventures with Purpose. Thank you so much for joining us.
Honored to be here.
Before we start talking about the work that your organizations have done to support Audrey's family, we'd love to hear a little bit about Exploring with a Mission and Adventures with Purpose.
So we started Exploring with a Mission after year 5 of doing missing person searches. I had located, I think at that point, 11 individuals either underwater in their cars or missing in swamps and mountains in the Northeast region, and decided that we'd build a nonprofit organization that we could gain funding, we could look for sponsorship, and start to really grow this in a nonprofit foundation way, and be almost a grant-making foundation for some of the other entities around the country that are doing what we're doing, which is dive sonar search specialists who are searching for people that are missing with their vehicles. Currently, we know that there are 3,000 missing persons in the country, or in essence, in the world that we know of. And we're searching for those individuals among thousands and thousands of cars that are underwater. And Exploring with a Mission was built specifically to help families bring answers to those families and to bring answers to communities that have lost loved ones in those communities that have not been found by law enforcement or by the families themselves. And they are, as we talked about originally, a little while ago, they're in very logical locations. And I kind of base it down to probability. It's a math problem. How far from the house are they? What is the closest body of water to their house? And which one is the most, fluid, meaning moving during winter months? Where could they have gone that makes the most logical sense, that is in their direct path home? And it's typically, as I said, a math problem. And Exploring with a Mission details all that out, creates a case file for each individual that is missing, and we go and search. We put action to the words, which is we're gonna see if we can find that individual.
And tell us about a case that you're particularly proud of.
I mean, I think a lot. I mean, every one of them, but Donnie Messier was one of them. The red truck in Vermont. Maureen Sherman down in Florida. The case that makes me, I went all the way to Tasmania, Australia, to find a man by the name of Nicholas Lease, and at the same time took a day off to go search for Dale Nicholson. But I was 17,000 miles away from my house and my family, and was able to bring home a man on the other side of the planet, proving that this math and the probability diagrams work, because he was 750 yards from his house.
Holy crap.
For how long?
For 6.5 years. Yeah. So, I mean, some of them have been 6.5 years, but I just found a man, my last person that I found, 37 years, Robert St. Louis in Montreal, Canada. Between myself and Dan Down Under, we have found 5 individuals underwater together. And then I found multiple with Adventures with Purpose. But we found Robert St. Louis and Yvonne Guevin when we were in Canada, making it so that we are the international group. I found people in the United States, Canada, and Australia. And every single one of them was literally exactly where we thought they were.
Yeah, we're just kind of looking at each other like, oh my gosh. I think this really resonates with you, Michael, because you're very strategic, evidence-driven. So I can see you're just learning a little bit about mapping software. I think this might be something that you
this is going to become a thing. Because, yeah, I mean, we're looking at that. We're trying to figure out the logical progressions of things. And even with one of our other cases, Ian Rogers, while he wasn't in water, he was 1.83 miles away from his last ping location, and no one knew.
Yeah, the truck. Mm-hmm.
The truck was.
Yeah. And that is what you would think, right?
Yeah, they don't go far. And the reality is most people go missing in a place that they know. Most of these people, like, unless it's nefarious activity. As soon as it's nefarious, now you're taken out of your life pattern, your life circle, and into the life circle of the individual that did the nefarious activity. So now you're into what they know. And so if it's self-harm or if it's an accident, 95% of the time they're in their natural circle of their life. So, like, we all go to the shopping center, to Macy's, to the gas station, to get ice cream, to go to the high school, to go to the college, to grandma's house. All those pieces, when you map all those locations to the uncles, to the cousins, you put all that into your probability diagram, and you start to see that there's a pattern in our life of which roads we take all the time, which roads go by water, which roads go by that special spot that Dale listened to the news, or that Donnie Messier listened to NPR and Paul Harvey Good Day. Like, there's specific places where people spend their most time. Robert Long in Long Island went to the boat ramp we found him at every day to have a nip and to watch the birds. And that's what he did every day. So when his wife came and said to me, "Hey, I knew he was here the whole time. The police checked this ramp 50 times." The difference is that, we've seen thousands of cars on our sonar systems, and some of these policemen are 23, 28 years old and have only seen 10 in their entire career.
That makes a lot of sense, because I've watched quite a bit of the videos that you guys put on, and I'm always amazed at some of the detail that, you guys pick up on. That when I see the image, I'm like, doesn't look like a car to me. But then you start moving around it and hitting the side sonar. I was like, oh, now I see it. I completely see that. It's amazing.
I'm really looking, I've searched for Audrey Herron multiple times, not only with Adventures with Purpose with Jared Lysak and the team with Cade and others, but I've also gone out there and searched myself and tried to get a sense of this. This is a different type of case. She only had 17 minutes to get home. She had to drive from Catskill to Freehold, which is literally you drive down the road, take a right on 23, and literally are back on Schoharie Boulevard or Schoharie Drive, Route 67 in minutes. It was a foggy night when she went missing, but we're not sure if she celebrated that night, if she went to a friend's house, knowing that this is the first time that she's been out since the baby was born, that the first time she recently went back to work. She had a doctor's appointment the next day. Like, I know everything about and every detail about that case, except for where did she go when she took the right on, I think it's either 23 or 32, where did she go? Did she take a right, or did she go to a friend's house to have a cigarette and a drink to celebrate with a friend that she got a raise? She had talked to her husband earlier from the business phone at the nursing home. So, but he went to bed. I think he told me that he felt like, she was really comfortable. She was really happy that they were all home together, and that, she was very excited about getting the raise, that, she worked really hard for it, and they just brought her back into work after having the baby. And the baby was, I think, 10 months old or 11 months old at the time, or maybe less. So, I just, cases like that one, there are probably 150 tiny little ponds on the hill, meaning like little old cow pasture ponds or ponds behind rock walls. There's ponds in the backyards of houses. That's the hard part about this, is that we don't know if she took a left and went to a friend's to get cigarettes and milk for the kids, or to have a drink with a friend. We don't know if she's in a very odd spot, because like this one, we don't know if nefarious activity occurred because of the individual that was working with her. The son of the individual that was working with her was known to assault women. So we're not really sure what happened here, but we haven't found her in any of those 150 ponds, or they don't have the depth to hide a Jeep Cherokee.
Yeah, one of the things that has stuck out to us when we've done several other interviews is they talk about this 12 miles that was thoroughly reviewed by law enforcement, by friends, family, various other organizations, and that there were no guardrails that were damaged. There was no area that looked like it came off the road. There was no vegetation or trees damaged. And so they were really struggling with even where to look.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we also have to realize is that the daughter came home from Florida. Sansia came home from Florida with the grandparents, and she was up in Selkirk. And so that's a different direction that the case took when we went that way. Okay. So we went north to Selkirk, past, I think it was Green Lake, and past another, a couple other lakes in that corner, ponds and lakes over in that corner. But we took that northern route and went to Selkirk. We also did the northern route doing the loop, where we went through Freehold, through Cairo, through Freehold to Selkirk. We've cleared everything in that circle on the thought process is she's either going home or she's going to get Sansia because she has a doctor's appointment the next day. We then cleared everything on Schoharie and through the reservoirs on the notion that she went the back way. We then went and looked at it from a nefarious activity, that the co-worker's son abducted her, and that she could possibly be in one of the in the rivers south of Cairo. And so we searched all those. We went up the Catskill River. We went up the something Kill River, Scully Killer. There's so many different ones there. Cotterskill. We went up the Cotterskill River as far as we could until we got to dry ground. We did all the bridges. We did the section just at the bottom of the hill on the Cotterskill, which is filled with logs. Like, we've searched every body of water that we could possibly think of that she could get into, but we have not searched backyards. And because it's, we had to knock on the door, say hello, and see if we can, gain access to those ponds with our gas engines or electric engines. And I think that's the next stage of this, is that people are going to have to, like, if you knew Audrey Herron and you have a pond in your backyard, we're going to have to check it just to make sure that she didn't drive into your driveway at, wanting to say hello at 11 o'clock at night because she got a raise and wanted to celebrate with you. And next thing you know, she backed in by accident in the dark, in the fog. And that's the concern we have, is that she's just in a place just off the beaten path that we haven't seen, because it's in the backyard of someone's house that she was going to say hello to. And it could be one of her friends. It could be her ex-husband. It could be her ex-boyfriend. It could be, we have no idea. We checked the ponds at her husband's house. We checked the ponds at the golf course. We checked all the ponds on that road, and Could we have missed her? Yes. Um, we almost missed Donnie Messier. He was, the way that the truck was filled with debris on the side, and the fact that you couldn't maintain a proper RPMs because of the river, we almost missed him. We almost missed Yvonne Guevin. His sonar image looked like a dragon on the, like it was this big yellow dragon. And then when we went back, that was just one of the tires sticking up, in the sonar image. And we came back, we came at a different angle. When I went to Australia the year before, Dan had done Australia and had done the Derwent River in Tasmania. And he said, Dale's not there. And I went, that's the number one logical spot for it. Let's go back over there. He goes, no, I already did it. I went, let's go back over it. Boom, that's where he was. And he goes, I must have missed him behind the tree. So like, we're not perfect. We're really good at what we do because we've seen cars so many times. But, we could have missed her in one of these bodies of water, but I don't think so. I mean, with two sets of eyes on it, it makes it even, more, it's more chances that we're going to find you if there's two sets of eyes on the sonar systems. So I don't know. I'm not sure where Audrey went, and that's the biggest thing is we've got to map more of her life patterns. I don't know where her ex-husband lived. I don't know where, Marie and others lived at the time and her friends lived at the time. I only know where her parents lived, her husband lived, the golf course was, and her work was. Like I have very little information to go on to map her life patterns.
So this is a really interesting conversation, very helpful for me because I was not thinking outside of the typical route. Like for me, it's 11 o'clock at night, it's late, it's a little foggy. I'm only thinking about what I would do, and I would probably just want to go home. But I love that you've opened up this thought of perhaps she went to a friend's house or, maybe went to go get some milk somewhere or something. You talked a little bit about Selkirk and related to Santia coming back from Florida. What is your theory there? Like perhaps Audrey wasn't planning on going back home, that she was heading somewhere else to meet Santia. Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah. So like, because of the fact that she had a doctor's appointment the next day, she hadn't seen her daughter in 30 days. So her oldest daughter had just come home. And she had been in the RV with grandma and grandpa, her parents, Audrey's parents, and so they had just returned that afternoon, and Audrey went to work, couldn't pick her up before work, and the thought process is, would she go because Jeff and the kids were sleeping, the babies were sleeping at the house, and they were comfortable? Would she go to Selkirk to pick up Sansia because of the fact that she had a doctor's appointment? Because if it was, let's say the doctor's appointment was at 11, well, now she's not picking her up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been the notion, like, maybe she was, there is no self-harm in my estimation in this. This is either an accident or somebody did something to Audrey by getting into that car in the parking lot. We've checked the Hudson River. We've checked, short of just going into the auto body place in Catskill and walking row by row until I can find a black Cherokee. I just don't know if that car is in water. Because again, there's not a lot of water in Selkirk where Sansia was. There's a stream out back. There was back in the day, like what her father did was, or her stepfather did, was he ran cars. Like he had one of the transport trailers with cars, and it's still sitting in the yard today, and you can see it from Google Earth. He was a car transport guy because behind him was an airport and an auto salvage yard. So like I looked at everything. I looked at the stepfather. I looked at the father. I looked at the guy from work. I looked at it from the standpoint of the ex-husband. We looked at it from the husband's standpoint. Like, we looked at it as a travel to Sansia. We looked at it as a travel straight home. We looked at it as an abduction. And then we looked at it as, okay, maybe she went to get at the Milk and Go up, one exit further than Cairo, that she decided to go get milk for the kids because, the babies needed milk in the morning and they didn't have enough milk. And she didn't have any cigarettes on her, and she didn't have a wallet, but she had always had money in her license. And the reason was because people had been stealing from the lockers at the retirement home. So like those pieces I put together, and I went, okay, well, maybe she's just going to get cigarettes because she didn't have any cigarettes, because the cigarettes were on the shelf at the house. The pocketbook was on the shelf at the house. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe she had car problems because the tire was fixed. And, you look at it from the standpoint, where could you have a mishap with the tire that could be fatal? And there's only a couple spots that there's a downhill run where if you blew a tire and you went off the road, that you went into that body of water. And again, some of these bodies of water are in the backyard of houses or on this, that are private property, and that I have not been able to get into. And she very well could be in a private property location because, accident scenario, not as much. Self-harm, I think, 0.5% chance. Nefarious activity, 50 to 70% chance. Because it disappeared. And whether it be something in her life that caused it, but I mean, she was celebrating that night. She was celebrating the fact that she got that raise, and and she was back to work, and she was happy to be back to work. So I just don't know at this point, like, what happened to Audrey. And it's, for Jeff and for Sansia and for the kids, like, and for Marie and all the friends, like, we just want to find her, and we're going to keep searching for her. I'm going to probably redo some of the things I did because, just like Dale Nicholson in Tasmania, we missed him and we found him the year 2.
You are describing some of the challenges of searching in that area. We're a little bit familiar with that area because we've spent some time in New England and gone up and over, I guess not really a pass, but into the Catskill Mountains. Can you describe some of the challenges of searching in that area? I would imagine it's kind of like windy roads and steep drop-offs. Can you tell us sort of what that looks like? Paint a picture for our listeners.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it's more swampy, meaning the hillside to Schoharie is kind of a swampy area, and there are ponds that are in corners on the bends coming off of 23 and 32 that have some, you don't know the depth, meaning the sonar ball says it's 5, but it might be 7. And can that vehicle hide in 7? Yes. Can it hide in 5? Probably not, unless, it's at an angle, or it's sunk in the mud. And, it's a very, how do I explain it? Like the waters are dark brown, for one. When the mud comes off the Catskills, it goes into the rivers, into the Cotterskill, and it's really dark. The Catskill rivers, like, you can see the bottom, like you can see it for miles. It's very clear. You can see the bottom on Google Earth for miles and miles and miles. It's those back ponds and lakes that are muddy from runoff and or covered in I would say, different types of mosses and grasses and different things, lily pads. And so, like, we've searched a bunch of different spots that, could she have gone into some of them? Yes. I mean, recently Adam Brown was down, I think it was in either Arkansas or Alabama, I can't remember, but he found a BMW It was the number one bridge that they thought that this guy should be at because it was the first bridge on the way home from the restaurant or the bar. And he threw the sonar ball in and it said 7 feet or 6 feet. And, it was all covered in lily pads. Well, that BMW was there. What happened was he skipped across the water and then jammed into the bank at the angle and was under the lily pads. And then the lily pads came over the top of the vehicle. So the only way to find that vehicle was to throw a magnet. So we learned from Adam Brown in that experience that 5 feet, 6 feet of water, you can still hide a car if it goes in at the right angle. The same thing with Whisper in California. She was under the bridge. Like her vehicle went under the bridge with her and her baby in it. And it took, Jared looking at an angle on sonar, looking under the bridge where the water was all the way to the bridge bottom, and then saying, hey, I got a vehicle under the bridge. And the diver went down and goes, it's Whisper's vehicle. And so like, we're not perfect. We're learning still too. Like all of us have been doing this as a hobby since 2018, as a bunch of dads that want to help families find answers, and on YouTube. But the reality is that we're still learning where we should be looking, or when we know that there's a possibility that that's the number one bridge, but it doesn't look deep enough. We've got to double check it sometimes. And sometimes we just got to throw a magnet to make sure that there's no magnetic, grab in those lily pads, just like Adam Brown did.
What do you think your next step for Audrey is? Like, what is the next thing that you want to search?
I want to search, excuse me. I want to work that corner pond as you come up the road from the transmission place. There's a couple ponds in right off of, I think, I can't remember if it's 23 comes across the 32 or if it's 32 and 23. I always forget because they're both the same numbers.
Right.
But yeah. So when you're sliding in from the transmission company, that was the last known location she was seen with the police officer who was sitting at the transmission company. Said she was going up towards Freehold, and he thinks that she was going to take a right on, or that she took a right on this one road. There's one pond on the bend in the turn that I want to double check. There's a pond at the top of the hill before you get to the center of Freehold, where the cul-de-sac ends in the pond down at the bottom in a private driveway. Those are the ones that I want to check next. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do Skolhari again. Like, just in case Nick Wren and Jared missed him, because we learned recently, I didn't check the Mansfield Hollow. Okay. And I checked everything else in the entire region for Robert Kavanaugh. I cleared every body of water, every river, stream, creek, pond, everything. The only place I didn't check was the only one that had the depth, Mansfield Hollow. And that's where Robert Kavanaugh was. And it was the one place that Jared and the team, Nick and Dan, had checked. And I mean, yes, Robert was, his vehicle, his little B2000 was in a hole in the grasses 150 yards from the bank, which means that he drove out on the ice.
Oh,
so
I was like, that's really far. Okay.
Yeah, he drove out on the ice and then went through the ice and disappeared. And so when those guys did what they did, they missed him because he was just outside the normal pattern of what we've seen in vehicles that float.
Mm.
And so, like, we're learning every single time we do a search that there might be a different scenario that we're missing, and like in the Robert Kavanaugh, it was ice. In the BMW with the gentleman down in Alabama, he came in at such a high rate of speed that when he hit the bank and everything exploded over the top of him. And now all the lily pads were like back into their formation above the vehicle, like nothing ever happened. was crazy. And
Mhm.
so the only way to find him is by magnet. So like with Audrey, we might have missed her by just by saying, you know what, that pond's not deep enough. You know what, that pond's in a private driveway. We're not going to search that one. And so, yeah, I mean, she could still be on her normal travel pattern on that hillside between Catskill, Cairo, and Freehold in that nook somewhere. I mean, until we know that every pond is truly cleared with whether they're drained or they're, cleared with sonar or with LiDAR, that I don't discount that we could have missed her.
Earlier, you were um, discussing some percentages of some I'll call them theories, the percentage that this theory could be what happened to Audrey. What really stood out to me was you talked about a 50 to 70% chance that something nefarious may have happened to her. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
There's a lot going on in that region with, if you look at young women that have been abducted. She was a pretty woman. Uh, she has that, in itself is an issue. Two, she's leaving work at 11 o'clock at night, kind of a different kind of environment in Catskill. And so something could have happened. At the same time, the coworker was a known person to police and law enforcement for accosting women. The fact that she is remarried, new children with one father, children with another father, that adds to your, percentage of that there's a chance that someone's mad. Okay. At the same time, if she goes to a gas station, she disappeared. Like I'm normally the guy that this is always an accident. It's always an accident. Like there's, or yes, they did it themselves. Like that's typically like 50% of people that we are searching for self-harmed. They put themselves in a body of water. Okay. So 50% of the remaining is either accident or nefarious or something, outside the norm occurred on that day. And so with Audrey, I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She's late at night. She's driving a car that has no spare tire. She doesn't have her cigarettes. She doesn't have her, any credit cards. She doesn't have her wallet. She doesn't have her phone. She's already, all those pieces right there in itself puts you in a bad place. And then, she's celebrating her, her job and her increase in her pay. You know, what occurred? I mean, we don't know. Like she could have gone to a friend's house and something happened there and she never made it home. That something happened at 12 o'clock at night. That car could be in Pennsylvania. We don't really know. We do know that also like that she had, and again, I got this from Jeff, her husband. And again, I just be careful with what you say, but she had a lump on her breast the day before, and that's the doctor's appointment. And we don't believe that that's a reason that she would ever. I mean, she was in great spirits, but she was nervous about the next day's appointment with the doctor because she had a lump on her breast. And so, did she go somewhere that no one knows? Did she go to check on to drive by the doctor's office that she was going to the next day because she'd never been there before? Or we're not sure. Did she go to? There are not a lot of bodies of water in the Cairo region, meaning there's a few places that you go. But from the standpoint of if you stop in there to get milk and someone does something, I mean, she's not a big woman. She's tiny, and so that was my concern was that, we're not looking in her natural pattern. We're looking in the killer's natural pattern.
Yes, as you were describing those for me, it made me start thinking about risk factors, which is something we discuss quite frequently when we are trying to support a family is, what are the risk factors? And you're talking about someone who's a single, at the time, single lady driving home. She's obviously married, but she's driving home alone. It's dark. There are several other things that she may have been going to do. No cell phone. Sounds like she'd left her purse at home when she potentially went to work that day because of the theft. And I hear what you're saying about her daughter coming home, right? If she's been gone for 30 days, my daughter used to take these road trips with my mom, and I was excited for her to come home. So I can see the idea of, did she just drive there to pick her up so that she's not waiting an entire next day to be able to see her daughter who's been gone for a while? So, you see all these things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would automatically go to pick up my kid.
Yes.
If I had been
Right.
30 days.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I stay with grandma for the night one more time at that house. And plus, and I've been to that house, and it's not Jeff's house. I'll tell you that right now. Meaning, I'm sure it was dirty then. It was in an auto salvage yard. I'm sure the first thing I would do is go get my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and this is her daughter. Like Sansia was her firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, so like, I just don't see her waiting at the same time, like knowing that she had a doctor's appointment the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I'm going to clear the hill again. I'm going to go and do it again. I'm going to do it until I either exhaust it or I find her, and I think that's the biggest thing about what exploring, going back to the beginning of this conversation, exploring with a mission is always on the mission of trying to make a difference in these cases. And we don't quit. I don't give up. Like I've gone back for Robert Kavanaugh 7 times. I've gone back for Audrey 5 times. I'm going to do, Cabrera in Long Island, and we're going to do, the cases in Maine. Like I'm going back up to Canada in the spring. We keep working at it and putting in the effort and taking the action, because without the action, we're not going to find them. We're not going to find any of these people without taking the action. That's the thing about Adventures with Purpose and Exploring with a Mission and these other entities. We are putting the boats in the water, and we are consistently every day trying to locate another vehicle in the region of a missing person that possibly could break the case. And I think by doing it the way that we're doing it, we're having such a success rate. I mean, in the U.S., and in Canada and Australia, we've now found a total of over 100 people underwater in their cars. And that's Adam Brown and Nug, that's Chaos Divers, that's Adventures with Purpose, that's Sunshine Sonar, that's Dan Down Under, that's myself, and eventually, and so we just keep doing it. Like we just keep putting the boats in the water like it's a mission every day we can, and try to bring these people home by clearing another body of water, giving another answer to a family member, that you can drive by that reservoir and know that she's not there, or he's not there, and it's a very important mission, because these families go by these bodies of water every day and go, I wonder if Danny's in there. I wonder if Audrey's in there, and it's a torment for these families. And so we are trying to, lessen that burden. At the same time, we're hoping that we can find them in a short period of time so that we can help another family quicker. There are 7 individuals missing in Long Island. There are 11 people in Connecticut. There's 2 in Maine. All Vermont has been found. There's 3 in Massachusetts. And then New York has a whole different level. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, no whole different level. There's 30 in the Montreal, Ontario, Canada, New Brunswick, and Halifax area. That's the region I'm working, and I'm just taking them one at a time, and if nothing else, putting their, getting it back in the news, making it fresh again, like talking about it from a different perspective, that these individuals are still missing. And, these individuals that are missing, that they're missing with their vehicles, and we need to start searching the bodies of water that are close to them. And police are starting to set up their boats like us, with the arc lab systems, with the inflatables, with the sonar sticks on both sides. They're making identical models of what we have because we are having such success.
And how can people learn more about your organizations?
Well, one, you can go to adventureswithpurpose.com or go to exploringwithmission.org. And that's the first thing. You can go on YouTube and check us out on YouTube. We have about 300 videos on Exploring with a Mission, and I think 600 videos on Adventures with Purpose. I've been in, I think, 75 or 80 videos of Adventures with Purpose, searching for people like Maureen Sherman, Kareem Tisdale, Levada and Robert Proctor, Gail Nicholson, Robert Long, Yvonne Guevin, Robert St. Louis, and others. We brought home, 41 people at Adventures with Purpose have come home. And that's, Jared Lysick and the team that was prior to me. And then in the last few years, Jared and I have brought it home, I think seven or eight people there. And all of my videos with Exploring with a Mission that are us searching for individuals on the last 40-day adventure that we did, those are all on Adventures with Purpose. They're not on my Exploring with a Mission channel, because we found 3 people in a total of 14 days. And so I wanted the people to see what we're doing and why we're having success, because again, that's now our 3rd country that we found people in with Exploring with a Mission. And, we're just trying to do our part. That's it. Like, I'm just a dad and a son, like many of us, and a father. And I'm just going out there every day to try to make a difference with families that they don't have any answers, and that's what all these entities are doing. I mean, yes, we're on YouTube, but that is not the reason why we do it. YouTube is only like the ability to monetize it in some way, shape, or form, so that we can at least like pay for some gas or pay for the next, cable that we need, or the trailer that we need, or get a donation for some piece of technology that would make it better. The reality is, I think I've probably spent $100,000 searching for missing persons, and I probably raised $25,000. So this has been it's a hobby that is expensive, but I also know that I've made a difference in 25 families' lives by, and have searched for over 100 people and made a difference in those families by, they have a voice, they have hope. They have someone out there still searching for their loved one that they know that it won't give up until they find a clue.
You've been listening to Tragedy, a true crime podcast. Our purpose is to honor victims by sharing their stories through the voices of friends, family, and those whose lives were forever changed. If today's episode resonated with you, we encourage you to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast so these important stories continue to be heard. Together, we can preserve their memories and ensure their voices are never forgotten. If you have ideas for cases we should cover or questions about what you heard, you can connect with us through our Facebook group, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, on X @Tragedy Podcast, by email at tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast@gmail.com, or by visiting our website, www.tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time.